Top 10 Games of 2001. With all the video games out there from the past century, it is very tough to remember every one of them, but it is not difficult to recall all of the fantastic titles that have been published which were called the top games. The emphasis on story, morality, and even beauty is driving improvements in video games, with console war heating up between PlayStation and Xbox. 2001 was the beginning of the console era. Games of this time progressed from being only entertainment to being something more. Here are 10 titles that pushed the boundaries of what was possible and made us come back to play over and over. Number 10. In 2001, HAL Laboratory and Nintendo worked together to create Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. It is the second installment in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. It features characters from many Nintendo video game properties, including Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, and Pokemon. The concepts of these corporations are represented or copied in the levels and gameplay genres as well. Melee's gameplay system, like that of other games in the Smash Bros. Series, takes an unconventional approach to the fighting game genre, with a counter that measures damage with increasing percentages, representing the knockback the character will experience, rather than the depleting health bar seen in most fighting games. When first released, the game received widespread acclaim from reviewers, earning honors for its aesthetics, intuitive controls, gameplay, and orchestrated music, as well as several prizes and recognitions from different magazines. It fared well upon release, eventually becoming the GameCube's best-selling game, with approximately 7 million copies sold by 2008. Number 9. Intelligent Systems and Nintendo have collaborated on Advance Wars, a turn-based strategy game for the Game Boy Advance. It was made accessible to the public in North America on September 11, 2001. The release of the game in Japan and Europe was postponed, ostensibly owing to the September 11 attacks in the United States. Despite that, the game was released in Europe in January 2002. Story for the game revolves around Orange Star and Blue Moon, who have been at odds on this famous continent. When an Orange Star commander called Andy is accused of assaulting the armed forces of two other countries, Yellow Comet and Green Earth, without justification, the dispute intensifies, ending in a global war. The game received universal acclaim upon its first release, according to Metacritic's review aggregate. Several critics praised the game for breaking new ground in the strategy genre, praising the deep gameplay and cartoony appeal as well as being incredibly absorbing. This game has become a cult favorite throughout the years. Number 8. Max Payne is a neo-noir third-person shooter video game series developed by Remedy Entertainment and released by Rockstar Games. Because of the drug-related deaths of Max Payne's family, the program is named after him. The first and second installments of the series were authored by Sam Lake, while Rockstar Games' Dan Houser was principally responsible for Max Payne 3. Max Payne was published in 2001 for Microsoft Windows and in 2002 for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Apple Macintosh. The narrative revolves on Max Payne, a rogue DEA agent and former NYPD investigator who is looking for those responsible for the murders of his wife and kid, as well as framing him for the death of his NYPD colleague, Alex Balder. During his investigation, he meets several allies, including Vladimir Lem, a suave, old-school Russian mobster, and Mona Sachs, a female vigilante seeking vengeance for the death of her twin sister, and uncovers a major conspiracy involving the trafficking of V, or Valkyr, named after the mythological Norse mythological figures, which is somehow connected to Max's family's deaths. The game is well known for the bullet time mechanic that it introduced. The first chapter's neo-noir story and comic-style presentation grabbed people of the time. Number 7. SSX Tricky, also known as SSX2 or SSX2, Tricky, is a snowboarding video game released under the EA Sports Big label and developed by EA Canada. The game, a logical successor to SSX, was released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox, and was later ported to the Game Boy Advance in October 2002. The gameplay maintains the same fundamental idea presented in SSX, with important tracks from previous games remixed, and 2 new compositions, Garibaldi and Alaska. The Uber techniques are the most major new element to the series. If players can fully charge their boost bar, they will be able to do Uber moves, which include characters pulling their feet off their board and performing outrageous stunts. In the World Circuit mode, there is also a rivalry system. If the player is friends with another AI character, that character will be more accommodating to them. Other AI characters may turn hostile in future races if the player has done anything to irritate them, such as attacking them during the race to increase the adrenaline meter. Many critics were reluctant to label it a sequel since it shared so much substance with the original SSX. The supplemental components, such as Uber moves and rivalry with other borders, were praised by critics. Some reviewers felt that the improvements over the original were so significant that SSX Tricky was labeled the best snowboarding game of all time. Several reviewers have raved over how excellent the voice acting and music were. The music on each track was chosen to fit the atmosphere, and it altered as the bicycles gained or lost velocity. Number 6. Hideki Kamiya created the Devil May Cry video game series, in which this is the first action-adventure title. Capcom is the game's primary developer and distributor. The plot revolves on Dante, the demon hunter, and his endeavors to stop different demon invasions of Earth. Long chains of attacks must be prolonged while avoiding damage and displaying beautiful fighting. This battle, as well as the length of time played and the amount of objects obtained, are considered when evaluating a player's performance. The series features a range of characters, each with their own set of talents. The series' major installments have sold millions of copies and garnered Capcom's Platinum Title Award. The video game series' popularity has resulted in a plethora of associated media, including comic books, novels, an animated series, manuals, toys, and magazines. The many modes of play have received overwhelmingly excellent feedback. However, before the third game, stories were seen as simplistic, and now with slowly this has become a flashed-out story with many characters and fully realized series. Number 5. Gran Turismo 3, A-Spec, a racing game for the PlayStation 2, was published in 2001. The Gran Turismo series kicks off with this game and was a critical and financial success, and it is still being developed today as being one of the best-selling video games of all time. The game works around the concept that, to unlock the next chapter, you must win all of the potential races and championships, pass all of the required licensing tests, and complete the game in its full. As an extra benefit from the game's sponsors, the player gets a car as a bonus reward for completing each quarter of the game. Races and challenges in GT3's Gran Turismo mode have been organized in a more logical and progressive manner, known as Simulation Mode in the North American edition. Depending on the kind of event, races may last as little as a few minutes or as long as several hours. In Arcade Mode, there are 6 stages, each of which has 5 or 6 courses from the game's full track collection, including both road and rally races, which may be selected at random. To advance to the next level, all tracks on a level must be finished on the easy difficulty or above. If you finish the level on normal or difficult difficulties, you will be able to utilize more vehicles in Arcade Mode, including multiplayer, 2-player battle, and time trial. Many critics and players consider this to be one of the best video games of all time. Number 4. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, a stealth video game released in 2001 by Konami Computer Entertainment Japan. A direct sequel to Metal Gear Solid, this is Hideo Kojima's 4th Metal Gear game. Activists from a group named the Sons of Liberty have taken over the vast offshore cleaning facility known as the Big Shell, and the story centers on their actions. A big ransom is demanded for the president's life, and if it isn't reached, the facility will be destroyed, resulting in an enormous environmental catastrophe. Players will find a shocking conspiracy hatched by an organization known as the Patriots, and their investigation will lead them to learn the true identities and motivation of both the enemies and allies. A lot of people liked Metal Gear Solid 2's gameplay, aesthetics, and attention to detail, making it a popular game. Initial switch of the main character did make many feel betrayed, but that this was a stellar game if looked past the confusing storyline. Criticism of the game's philosophical nature and execution has divided critics, who initially praised the protagonist but disagreed with the game's storyline, which deals with topics such as the information age, mimetic manipulation, political conspiracies, and the internal struggle for political liberty and freedom of thought. Number 3. Bungie created and published Halo: Combat Evolved for the Xbox 360 in 2001. It is a first-person shooter game that came for the Xbox video game console. Master Chief, a cybernetically enhanced super soldier, takes on the role of the Master Chief in Halo, which takes place in 2666. Co-worker and assistant, Cortana, an artificial intelligence. A virtual world called Halo, where players fight aliens in order to discover the secrets of Earth, is available. Halo was acclaimed as one of the finest video games ever made after its release, both by critics and the general public. To describe video games that are expected to be on par with or outperform Halo, words like Halo Clone and Halo Killer have been used. Fan-made Machinima video series Red vs. Blue was inspired by the famous video game Red vs. Number 2. Final Fantasy X, the 10th major installment in the Final Fantasy series, is a role-playing video game developed and released by Square. The game is the first in the Final Fantasy series to have voice acting in three-dimensional settings rather as static pre-rendered ones. Final Fantasy X ditches the active time battle (ATB) system in favor of the conditional turn-based battle (CTB) system and introduces a new leveling system known as the Sphere Grid. Set in the imaginary nation of Spira, the game's theme revolved around a group of heroes tasked with defeating a rampaging demon known as Sin. Tidus, a world-famous blitzball player, is the game's protagonist. When the Sin epidemic ravaged his hometown of Zanarkand, he was forced to escape. Tidus becomes a guardian to Summoner Unit to remove Sin after discovering its actual identity is that of his missing father, Jecht, shortly after arriving in Spira. In Final Fantasy X, players actively maneuvering the main character, Tidus, throughout the environment to interact with objects and people. The global and town maps are completely merged, with terrain outside of cities shown to scale. Tidus faces opponents at random. The area transforms into a turn-based fighting arena, where characters and foes wait for their turn to strike. Final Fantasy X received widespread acclaim from video game reviewers. Several Japanese video game publications gave the game almost flawless ratings. The game's plot, visuals, and movies garnered largely good feedback. The game has a Metacritic score of 92 out of 100. Critics praised the voice acting, story, character development system, and gameplay innovation, notably the overhauled fighting and summon systems, the option to switch party members during battle, and the character growth and inventory management systems. Number 1. The action-adventure game Grand Theft Auto 3, published in 2001, was developed by Rockstar Games and DMA Design. As of this writing, Grand Theft Auto 3 is the third Grand Theft Auto game to be published. Betrayed by his fiancée, Claude vows revenge in Liberty City, which is loosely modeled on New York City in many aspects after the mythical city of the same name. Claude's journey into organized crime, drug trafficking, street gang combat, and government corruption propels him into the world of organized crime. Third-person gameplay allows players to roam the area on foot or via vehicle. The open-world idea allows players to explore throughout Liberty City, which is organized into 3 main areas. There were a lot of good reviews for Grand Theft Auto 3, with most of them applauding the game's concept and gameplay. Violent and sexual content in the game has been the subject of intense debate. Some critics have called it one of the most important games of the 6th generation, as well as one of the first to have an open-world environment. For many gamers, it was named the year's best video game in several gaming publications and websites.
This is it for today. Thank you for watching the video till the end. If you liked my video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Please leave a comment about what you enjoyed and how I can improve. We will meet again next time. Till then, stay safe, stay happy.